fall together. I'm letting go for once forever. Following this map under other sky is open heart. Golden hair responding to the lightning whisper to the stars. I turn my eyes into windows to wildflowers, white and black holes. The light meeting in my middle, between two worlds, the pattern move. A pattern grows into a map. How many times I take this path, woven with the vine, walking the red road alive. Jackie, I be the Maya. Jackie, I be the Maya. Jackie, I be the Maya. Flash of white and open sky, awareness seeing eye to eye. A quilt holding the silence of 1,000 rays streaming through time. I reach out my hand to feel the four winds that turn the wheel. The light meeting in my middle, between two worlds, the pattern move. A pattern grows into a map. How many times I take this path, how many times I peel it back, still the story stays intact. Free my heart of hearts, mystery of love, don't go she long. Jackie, I be the Maya. Jackie, I be the Maya. Jackie, I be the Maya.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you all for tuning in. Great Sunday, Plant Sunday. I'm on time, right? Rarely on time, but I'm on time today. I pray that you all had a beautiful sleep. Those of you who don't work overnight, those of you who worked overnight, I hope your shift was good, man. Get home, get you some rest, and refresh for the day. This topic, uh, unions and confederacies. Peace, cuz. Hiyoko, man. What's good, family?
Yoko family, what's going on? Hensky family, what's going down?
Everything. Just did woke up early, took some notes, was talking about unions and confederacies, the importance of both. What are the differences, what are the similarities, um, and why we choose to stay union, right? Um These are just a conversation that we're gonna have today. I don't know if many people will be interested, but they should be interested if they're interested in tribal law, right? So let me get this started up. Let me pull these notes up, and then I'll get going. But before I do go, being that you do know the topic, cuz do you have anything that you would like to touch on or talk about when dealing with unions and confederacies? Oh, you heard me, Mont?
Yeah, yeah, I'm here, bro.
Now I say, before I start, do you have anything in particular that you want to touch on dealing with unions and confederacies?
Oh, nah. I right now I'm bringing some catching somebody up on what we dealing with.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So I drop. Um, let's see. Peace, Unc. What's going on, Uncle Ant? What's good with you? Let's see. Let me send this link to Pa. I think Unc working overnight, but I'm gonna drop this link on him real quick, and then. Oh, okay, there we go. Hold on. Let me send this to Pa real quick. Hold on. All right. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Unions and confederacies. And the two that I'm going to use is the most famous union and the most famous confederacy when we talk about in the Southeast. So the notes, let me show the screen so y'all can know these are the notes. Uh these are the notes, is what, 2 pages. So um let's talk about it. So the Ibaha or the Wale and the Yamasee represent two different yet interconnected models of collective governance and identity. So the Ibaha clan system, or that which is known now today uh, as the Wale, the Ibaha were a union of families, with each family functioning as a self-governing entity within a larger social framework. This structure was rooted in a clan based kinship, meaning that identity and governance was passed through lineages rather than a political system of merging distinct groups. Leadership. Mothers decided who would speak for their family, following a matrilineal tradition where authority was tied to the clan. Leadership was based on inherited responsibility rather than political negotiations. Identity. A person's identity was tied directly to their family and clan, which carried a lineage of responsibilities and social rules. The Iba'a did not form a confederation in the European sense, but were a collective based on ancient familiar bonds. Cohesion. Because of the kinship based union, the Iba'a were inherently stable. Every family was responsible for maintaining its role, ensuring for the continuity of their governance without the needing for centralized control. Cultural emphasis. The Iba'a system prioritized ancestry, continuity, and responsibility, ensuring that social structures were upheld through bloodlines rather than external alliances. Let's explain the structure, as was read. The structure of the Iba'a, or that people that the Spanish called Wale, was a union of families across the board. The reason they united families as opposed to having a centralized power is because when one family or one person deals with all politics, the confusion comes in. The I have to keep my family ahead. All of that, that becomes a part of the game, right? You have to give all of your love, peace, and happiness to a specific person rather than to your own family in an extension of that union. So the Yamasee, gonna go part two. Let's see. See, I'm cutting out. Let's see. Here we go. They do me dirt all the time. Let's see if I can switch devices. Hold on, give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna switch devices. Hold up. All right, hold on. I'm uploading it now. Let me see what we can do. See if I can switch it up. Hold up. I'm gonna mute this side and come on the other side. Hold on. All right, let's see.
What happened? Did we get while we muted?
I don't know, but they definitely doing me dirty right now. So if I cut out, y'all just low key gonna have to deal with it because I'm not trying to waste any time trying to get this shit set up. Um, I did try for some reason block my microphone, so we just gonna have to rock like this. So again, if you can't hear me, take what you can hear. If I cut out, then just hit me later and ask me what was said. So part two, the Yamasee, a confederation of diverse people. Often or more often than not, we see, okay, the Yamasee were a multi-ethnic confederacy. And this is using English. Ethnic in English means someone who's pagan, right? But what they're explaining is the Yamasee was a confederation of different tribal people that came together for certain political purposes. And when they came together, Europeans decided who would be the lead or who would be the leaders, and they decided who would run or have control over specific lands. You can find we can actually find this in different government documents when they set up the 10 towns. So let's talk about a confederacy. Now, the Yamasee as a confederacy, we're going to go over structure, leadership, identity, cohesion, and cultural emphasis. Structure. The Yamasee were a confederation, meaning they were composed of multiple distinct tribal groups that came together for a mutual benefit. This included not only Muskogean speaking peoples, but also those of Arawak and other linguistic backgrounds. Leaders were chosen from different tribal factions and had to work together to maintain balance. Decision making was often political and required negotiations amongst different people with various traditions. A Yamasee person might belong to one of many different tribal backgrounds, meaning their identity was shaped by both their original nation and the broader Confederacy. Because the Yamasee were an alliance rather than a single kinship-based entity, their stability depended on the willingness of members' tribes to remain aligned. If external pressures arose, the Confederation could fracture. Cultural emphasis. The Yamasee system prioritized cooperation, diplomacy, and mutual defense, ensuring that different groups could coexist under a shared identity without erasing their distinct traditions. That's what made the Yamasee so beautiful in the 1700s. Because when you say the term Yamasee, when you're dealing with the Confederation, it was never dealing with one group of people. This is why those different groups under those banner or under the banner still had their original languages, still had their original traditions, while acting in unison with what was going on. We've been at war, and again, the Ibaha were the majority of the Confederacy. They were already at war with the English, the Chichimico, and the Spanish. So, being that they prioritized cooperation and diplomacy, they were able to reach out to different tribal groups and bring them into the fold or into their confederacy. Part three, key differences between the Ibaha and the Yamasee as a union and a confederation. Foundation. The Ibaha's foundation was kinship and clan-based lineage. The Yamasee foundation was political and military alliances. Leadership. The Guale or the Ibaha were matrilineal and family-driven. The Confederation negotiated leadership amongst different tribal people. What does that mean? The chiefs chosen by the women of Ibaha would remain chiefs, but the chiefs chosen to run the Yamasee Confederation were chosen by Europeans. This is a fact. They put people in place to dictate the politics of what was going on. This is why you had Yamasee fight a Yamasee, or as it seemed, according to English documents, because it was kind of hard for them to start separating the Confederacy from the different groups of people who formed the Confederacy. If that makes sense. Identity, clan and family lineage for the Ibaha. Identity for the Yamasee Confederation is rooted in multi-tribal association. Cohesion for the Ibaha, stability through family responsibilities. Yamasee, stability through negotiated cooperation. Governance, each family leads itself, collectively forming the union, Ibaha. Leadership changes based on political needs, Yamasee. Challenges, maintaining family traditions across generations, Ibaha. Keeping different people united despite the differences, Yama or Yamasee. Now, part four, similarities between the Ibaha or the Guale and the Yamasee. Collective strength. Both relied on a sense of unity to maintain social and political stability. Whether through blood ties or political alliances, they understood the power of working together. Matrilineal influence. While the Yamasee's governance was more political, they still maintained strong matrilineal traditions in many of their membership groups, similar to the Guale or the Ibaha. What does this mean? Many of the people that formed the Yamasee Confederation were matrilineal people. The Yama themselves, when they came into the land, they weren't a matrilineal people, they were patrilineal. And this is shown in the way their men operated through ceremony and through trade. So they were good speakers. They had the gift of gab. Now, it says cultural preservation. Both systems ensured that individual identities and traditions were not erased, even within a larger structure. Today, this is opposite, as many people their identities are being erased and mashed with the Yamasee identity or the Yamasee name, to the point you have sisters saying, well, I want to know my clan. I don't know it, but I'm Cherokee and I know the Cherokee are Yamasee. That's wrong. The Cherokee aren't Yamasee. But I can show you different chiefs that had family a part of the Confederation. Their mothers were something else. So in the past, it was, this is the Confederacy. You are a part of the Confederacy, but you have your own traditions. You have your own name. You have your own cultural story, own history. Today is no, all of us are this, and we come up out of this, which is completely opposite of what actually was. So there's the similarities, but you see the cultural preservation today is not the same. There are a lot of identities being cut out and being mashed together with the Yamasee name in this day and age, which is kind of doing something that Swanton did when he would mash these people together and say, well, it's best that we consider them one and the same. It's not best that we consider them one and the same because they're not originally one and the same. Which brings us to, how did these systems benefit their people? Survival through adaptation. Now, how did the systems benefit their people? The Ibaha and the Yamasee. The Yamasee were a confederation, and their confederation allowed diverse groups to unite in strength, making them more resilient against external threats. This provided them with a broader range of resources and warriors, as they could now call out to different groups of people from over here, which is central, and grab warriors and use those warriors to fight over here in the Southeast. So that was a part of their power. The Ibaha, their structure ensured long-term cultural and social stability through the continuity of family traditions. Because their leadership was tied to kinship, there was less internal conflict over authority. So we never had an issue about who would make the decisions, because at the end of the day, every family had two people there where the decision was being made, as opposed to a confederacy is being created by Englishmen based off their new allies. And they take these allies and replace them, or replace the original people with them, and then start calling everybody by this name. So you can see the difference. Now you have a political struggle. This is why the Wale and the Wale, or the Ibaha and the Ibaha, who were known as the Yamasee at this point, were at war. This is something many are not talking about. The traditional Ibaha and the Catholic Ibaha were at war with each other, because one was siding with the English, one was siding with the Spanish. But there's a special group of people who saw the middle ground. And the middle ground was, if we could hold on to our traditions while staying where we are and avoiding them, then we can continue, then we can continue our life and our traditions, as opposed to mashing them together, losing them, and then losing the war to both groups. Because the people that were that left, right? They knew the English and the Spanish were cousins. It's documented on paper. Now, what can each of these people learn from each other? What can the Yamasee learn from the Wale or the Ibaha? The Ibaha and the Yamasee represent two, Kate. We went over that. Represent two different groups. So here are the things that they can learn from each other. Um, Let's see. The importance of family-based continuity rather than temporary alliances. Who is this? All right, we got Unc in here. Let's see. Peace, Unc. What's going on? Let's see.
Yoko nephew,
So
what's going on with you, baby?
all is well. All is well. So what can they learn? What can each learn from each other? What can the Yamasee learn from the Ibaha? The importance of family-based continuity rather than temporary alliances. How a stable union prevents fragmentation over time, that internal responsibility amongst families can be stronger than external agreements. Now, what can the Iba'a learn from the Yamasee? The strategic value of multi-tribal alliances for defense and trade. How adaptability can help in the time of crisis, and that working with outsiders does not always mean losing identity. Part 7. How can a confederation learn to understand the importance of union? 1. Recognizing that leadership is not just about governance, it's about generational continuity. I love that word, right? Electricians, you have to know about continuity. Understanding that kinship is a permanent bond, while alliances are often situational. And 3, learning that unity is strongest when it's not just a matter of agreement, but of shared lineage and obligation. So, for union and confederacy, the Iba'a created both. We founded both. The fact of the matter, and as in government documents, I got all type of shit, right? Let me find this, because what has to be understood is when this is being taught, when this is being taught, what truly has to be understood is the function of these different tribal people, right? Now, he said a lot of us multiple tribal people, right? Now, it says Ebola in town. Okay, cool. But as I was saying, what makes what makes this beautiful is the Iba'a themselves founded the Yamasee Confederation. Now, this wasn't just them, they weren't by themselves, of course not. But they were dealing with another people that suffered something they had suffered many years earlier. So we can't talk about the formation of the Iba'a. We can't talk about the formation, we can't talk about the formation of the Yama without talking about who put it together. What groups of people came together to create what we know as this confederacy? And why is it that this confederacy still had a clan-based system? Who are these people that the Iba'a were dealing with? So I got government documents walking through the house. Let me get out of this house real quick. But let me go get their documents and read how it was formed. Now, outside of these government documents, you can find this in Yamasee Indians, Florida, South Carolina, all of that good stuff. But let me see which one of these we gonna read. I'm thinking it's this one. Let's see. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? What are we talking about? Okay. So this is the document here. This is the document here. And it's Federal Register, volume 73, number 37. This was printed Monday, February 25th, 2008. Pages 10,060 and 10,061. And this has been printed from the Federal Register online at gpo.gov. So this is official. Um, and they're talking about the formation of the Confederacy. And this can't be overlooked. Now it says, let's see where we'll start. We'll start here. It says the first recorded European contact in the Savannah area occurred in the summer of AD 1526, when settlers under Luis Vasquez de Leon briefly established a colony along Guade or Guadalupe River, believed to be present-day Savannah River. Ilion's settlement is thought to have been in or near the territory of the Casabo. Interesting. We know how that was formed. Sometime in the late 1600s, a portion of the Casabo joined the emergent Creek Confederacy. Ilion's name for the river also may refer to the Guale residents of the area. By 1700, many of the Guale had relocated to South Florida. However, some of the remaining Guale population joined with the Tama to form the Yamasee tribe. If you need this document, hit me up. I'll drop it on you. Now, why is this important? It's because we're talking about unity and confederacy. We're talking about unions, and confederacy. Now, while Ibaha is a union, now you know they were a part of the confederacy too. But with them being a part of the confederacy, anybody here can correct me if I'm wrong, they were the majority. So they invited people in to unify with them for political purposes while separating themselves from the Christian Wale who kept the union and separated themselves from the family that went back to the Chattahoochee or went back to what Europeans call Apalachicola or Ibaha of the West. So when it comes to unions and confederacies, both are equally as important. But the clear separation is in confederacy, there will always be some fuck shit because you will have 13 tribes. And of those 13 tribes in the confederacy, all of them believe that their tribe comes from this one. Two, all of these tribes believe there's one person who holds this big voice to speak for all. They'll even show you a government document that says the chief of Potocaligo was able to speak for all the towns in the north. That's confederacy. In union, Potocaligo was just as equal as all other towns. Number two, we're still on part two. And in that, Potocaligo belonged to the Ibaha. It didn't belong to the Yamasee. It didn't belong to the Yama. It didn't belong to the Chickasaw, the Kusa, Koshida, Kowida. It didn't belong to any of them. And no, there were no Yama living in Potocaligo in mass numbers. They were not the leaders of the town. That bloodline, along with the Ospo bloodline, traced back to Blackwater. So we know who the leaders of those towns were. But today, it's out of order. You have Wale, a part of the Confederacy, but they're not in charge of their town. They're a part of a confederacy in their town. Had they lived the way of the Ibaha, they would have simply showed, told, and got back what was rightfully theirs in seat, in spirit, and physically. But no one is putting this together. No one is saying, damn, there was an upper and lower Yamasee. When was this created? There was an upper and lower Yamasee. Who lived where? These are questions that are not asked because just being a part of the Confederation is enough. Had you been a part of a union, your mother would be there, your auntie, your sister, your cousins would be there. which means that y'all have your own tribal story, which means that can't nobody play with you, can't nobody flip you inside out, upside down. This isn't to shit on anyone. It's to simply say, when you know your story, can't nobody play with it. It's like me saying the Wale, it's like me going to Mexico and sitting on a seat in Mexico and saying that, well, since some of my people came over here and lived over here, then I got the voice for everybody. Is fucking foolish. It's foolish. For people to allow that is foolish. This is what union combats. Confederacy is good in the time of trade. Confederacy is good in the time of war. But in your daily life, the union, because the union is broken down into what? Those who do business and those who are warriors, the red and the blue. So union makes sure everyone is together. Confederacy says we're together for this situation. What is a federation? And what does the word con actually mean? And if you put a con and a federation together, what does it actually become? See, what I want is for you to be yourself. Whether you be yourself in the Union or whether you be yourself in the Confederacy, be yourself. Both of these benefit our people, as I just stated, in different situations. So it's best to understand them, understand their origin, understand how these things were even put together. Who formed what was known as the Ibaha? What families came together to form this? This is a great question. Why didn't they see themselves as a tribal people, but instead of union of families? What was the middle ground? What was the middle ground? Why are people so excited? Excitement causes people to do things that they shouldn't. You don't have your family together. You shouldn't be trying to join shit. Get your family together first. Don't join something and end up confusing yourself intellectually and losing yourself in the family. This was what was different between when the Yama or the Tama and the Wale came together the first time and them coming together or being forced together in the modern era. When they came together originally, the Yama were Yama, the Wali were Wali. If a Yama man had a child with a Wali woman, that baby was Wali. It wasn't Yama at all. It took on his mother's culture. There's two people in this chat. Can y'all correct me if I'm wrong? They didn't open it. Y'all can correct me at any time. So if a Shatta man had 30 Iba'a wives and he spread his seed, and each one of those women, he has 30 children with women that are Iba'a, but he has no sister, his clan will die out. So you can't say, well, the Yama mixed with the Wale, so they one and the same. That's crazy. That's cracker shit. But that's what people do in order to position themselves, right? Or you can't say, well, the Wale didn't allow the Yama to live in their towns. That's a fucking lie too. Because when the Westo jumped on them people, they opened up a specific land for them to migrate in. And when they came in and the Wale seen the devastation on them people's face, because the Wali and Temuka were together at that point, they all formed that confederacy in that town. Now tell me I'm wrong. Not at one point, not at any point did any one of those people feel like they were bigger than the other. Not at any point did those people feel like what I say override everything they say because the Englishmen put me in charge. That happened when niggas got amongst the Englishmen and then start raiding their own town. But Somebody would make it seem like, well, they were raiding, they was getting people off the plantation. They did that shit when they needed the fucking numbers. When they noticed that they put so many people on the plantation, now the Englishmen can now jump on their ass. They had to go to the plantation and get niggas off the plant. They had to. Same thing with the Muskogee. When the Muskogee started putting the people that were known as the Yamasee on the plantation, and the Englishmen started jumping on the Muskogee, what do you think the Muskogee did? They went and got the same niggas they was putting on the plantations. Tell me I'm wrong.
Big facts. Big facts. And then they got to fight today for their own recognition.
And they got to fight for their own recognition. We talking about real Wale, real Yamasee descendants who can't even get recognized by a nation they help fight.
Right.
So is one better than the other? Of course not. They're situational. But in order to truly understand a function, you have to know how your family is supposed to function. If you don't, you'll be confused. You'll be confused when Charity Haggy says, yeah, I'm from Tougaloo, but I'm Yamasee. Those are my ancient people. That confuses many. When Caesar Augustus said, I'm Chalukwi Yamasee, that confuses people. They take it as if he's speaking for everybody that's Tougaloo or everybody that's Cherokee. Man is speaking for himself. He knows
Right.
his nation, but telling you that his nation or town was a part of the Confederacy, that's what's being explained. Oh, those people that was a part of Confederacy, my ancient people. What town are you from? Tougaloo. So now you know exactly who his people is.
Mhm.
Or, oh, he's from Ichora. He from where? Ichora. Okay, he Cherokee. Well, Cherokee, Ichora is not originally Cherokee, but he's Yama, right? Yeah, his people's a part of the Confederacy. Okay, but he told you what he was, told you his branch of the Confederacy. But you take away what he told you he was and focus on the term Yamasee. It's fucking insane. Niggas say, or same thing with the Makoma. Oh, the Wale and Makoma, they're not the same. When Makoma was getting that ass whoop, who did they call on? When traditional Makoma were getting kicked out their towns because they weren't Christian, who did they call on? That Ibaha union was so powerful. It lasted tens of thousands of years. And when their friends, their companions, the gentle ones, suffered the same fate that they was about to, the Wale went to fighting for those people, inviting them in the land, and then going to fight the English. And beating Englishmen and Westo who had horses and guns. Niggas whoop them people ass in order to protect the Yamasee or the Yama, as they were called at that time. So unions and confederacies always existed. But that base union and the main confederacy were created by the same people. The base of the union And the Confederacy was created or founded by the same root group. And that group of people were run by women. Women led. Men did business. Men went to war. This is where the term Chilukwi or Chilakwi as a title, meaning war chief or that which causes separation. That's where that comes from. He had to separate from his town to go do business. He had to separate from his town to go to war. This is your Tuskanugi, your war chief. This is what men did. So going into the Confederacy, it was the idea of the women that, hey, if we just unify with all the people coming into our land, we'll be more powerful than what we are now because we had a clear separation in the unity or in the union. Please learn how these confederacies were set up before you start to claim things in these confederacies that you truly know nothing about. This shit can be exciting. Learning about a tribal people can be exciting, especially when majority of the documents about them are that they were dark skinned, they had coarse hair, thick lips, or they were Negroes, they were niggas. So it feel good to learn that story. But in learning that, you need to learn your fucking story. You need to look in the mirror and learn your story. Guessing isn't going to get the job done. Having somebody place you somewhere just because isn't truly going to get the job done. What's going to get the job done is you doing the proper work, you finding out where your family belongs, and then you become a part of Confederacy. This always has been our thing. Find out where our families belong. Our families belong here as a union. But hey, we get an offer to join the Confederacy. It's like, we are a union. We can be friends. We can have treaties of friendship. We can do business with each other without us being a part of the Confederacy. We don't have a principal chief. That's not how we move. We don't have one big mama. That's not how we move. Rahubat, peace, what's going on? Or greetings, what's going on, family? So it's just our understanding that union is best for us. Now, if you are an individual, but your family isn't on board and you're a male, then Confederacy would be the way, as there are women that can adopt you as their son or take you in. I don't want to use the word adopt, but take you in as their own, right? That would better secure you or secure your position and where you need to be. If you do have your family and y'all shit are together, it'd be my opinion that it would be best for the family to become a part of a union, being that the family has their own autonomy. The family speaks for themselves. The family has their own dialect, their own traditions. So that includes dance, food, and medicine. So our families, or Pa family and my family, our family don't take the same medicines for nausea as someone of their family. This is what you learn through union. You learn your family, you learn your eating type, how you're supposed to eat, how you're supposed to exercise, what your family sleep schedule. All of that comes with being a part of a union, right? Um, and again, the sweet part about it is every family has autonomy. There's no, okay, that says Kasabo over there, and that's a part of the Confederacy. So Kusabo. I want to become a part of the Confederacy. Okay, the Kasabo were Yamasee. Nah, that's not how that works. Who is the chief of the Kasabo, a part of the Confederacy? When I was Nuwapian, I asked this question. Well, shit, it say the United Nuwapian Nation of Yamasee, Seminole, Creek, Washita, and such Indians, Cherokee. Who are the chiefs of each one of these branches which forms the UNNM? Oh, he's the chief. Okay, he's the chief of the Confederacy. This is the principal chief of the Confederacy. Who are the chiefs of each individual tribe within the Confederacy? Nah, it's only one chief. He the big chief. That don't make no fucking sense. Paul, you remember this conversation I had with them years ago. Munt, you remember this conversation I had with Mario years ago. It doesn't
Yeah, I
make
was
any
tapped into
sense.
that.
So
And then
you
it was only
talk to
one,
me
and there was only one mother,
on
one
the
clan.
panel.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about for them. It was only one
Oh
clan
yeah,
mother.
for the facts, they only had one clan mother. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. So I asked, if she's all of y'all clan mother, and he's all of y'all chief, how are y'all mating with each other? That blew up the spot. Because the nigga I was talking to, or the niggas I was talking to, were known for hitting all these women. But y'all claim these y'all clan sisters. Operating in the Confederacy, not knowing how the Confederacy worked, running through women, and then a nigga asks, so what's your clan? You say, we don't got no clan. And you say, shit, how you function as Yamasee without a clan? And the
That's why
nigga
they didn't
say,
have no. That's why they didn't have a
"Huh?
clan because they was doing that. They was already moving in the wrong ways. Like they was meeting women, bringing them in, and then knocking them down like on some
On some weird
knowledge,
shit.
on some knowledge bully type shit. And
Facts.
so they that's how they was confusing they people, and it just didn't work like that. That's not righteous, and most of us know that ain't righteous. And that's why they ain't had no clan. Because if they was to have a clan, I mean, you'd be knocking down your own family. So
Come on, bro, you be hitting your own family. So in that same video, the lady say, what does he mean by clans? He doesn't know what he's talking about. The Yamasee never had clans. Only for a nigga to come back 2 seconds later and say, you see that Sabian Yamasee? Sabian is our clan. Crazy shit.
right.
This is why you got to find out who the fuck you are and
Then they
find
came
out
back and
where
said
you fit.
Sabianism is their religion.
Then said Sabian is their religion. This is some crazy shit. So you have to know who you are before you
Because
go to
they
joining some shit. Talk to me,
and
cuz.
that's because they looked for liberation through the master teacher. When
Hmm.
liberation is supposed to come from within.
Right,
And so they looked for it through the master teacher, and then once the master teacher got kidnapped, they didn't have no order, no guidance, because
right.
they wasn't really paying enough attention to what he was really building.
And he definitely was given the keys.
Correct.
Cause when he say, yeah, I'm this, but everybody might not be this. You might be that, and this. Niggas wasn't understanding that son was like shit. A nigga finna create a big ass nation with nations. So he had a confederacy. The Israelites had a leader. The Muslims had a leader.
Man.
The Christians had a leader. Listen, I'm telling you, all the religions on the land had a leader, but the tribes didn't have their own chief. Confusion. Let's see. Questions. Any questions? Do we have any questions in the chat? Paul, what's going on today, Unc? He probably on the shift. Let me see if I can get him to tap in. Let me see.
Hey, and for the record, that's not to associate what I just was touching on about when we just touched on Mario Jessup and them. That's not to associate the Sammy Yamasee with the Yamasee that we be building with today. So that's
Yeah,
not the
yeah,
I'm not the
that,
same
yeah.
people. For the
Mm-hmm.
record, I'm not the same people.
At 56 minutes.
that that way we just didn't. I didn't want to confuse nobody. They be like, what? Nah, I'm not the
But
same people we talking
yeah,
about. What we
the,
talking
and
about?
and that be the thing with the name, though. Is so many people could fuck up the name for everybody when they
True.
don't know. Cause I can only imagine how many Yamasee people that's tied into Allendale get confused with the Wale Yamasee, the Yamasee Creek, Washita. You know what I'm saying? Like all this extra shit.
It's
So definitely got to
yeah.
be clear on that.
I say being Yamasee and Allendale not the same. We know that. So
Well, what I do, what's interesting, he say tomorrow. Oh my God, don't tell me that. Hold on, I just got a text message. Hold on, I just got a text message. Oh my God, my feelings hurt now. My feelings hurt. I'm so, oh Lord.
from who?
Oh, I just got a text message from work. I thought we were off tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah, I thought we were off tomorrow, boy. He said I got Joe and Vegas. Okay. Okay, say less. I need that bread anyway, boy. I blew 1,200 this weekend.
yeah, you do because don't didn't you say Crane gonna have the car
Hell yeah.
or
You know
something?
that check come this week.
Yeah.
That check come this week. Nigga definitely finna go grab that Benz. Let's see. It say, y'all know people be so slow, attaching the Yamasee to everything. LOL.
Oh,
Do they? But again, what it is it comes from ignorance and the lack of proper education. Um, because for a long time, for a long time, they were considered the elders in the Southeast. So that's one reason a lot of people mash all of the Southeast identities into the 1700s Confederacy. But when it comes to people in the West, when they see niggas, they automatically say Yamasee because those was the niggas that came from over there. People don't know how to separate the different groups or the different towns or the different confederacies from the other confederacies. This is why you actually have to know what's going on. Basically, like Unc said, if you know what's going on, then you can actually say, okay, well, this group is over here. This group is from down here, but they're up there. And this group is over there, but all of them are Yamasee. That doesn't mean that they're the same. This is usually a conflict between Yama people and Yamasee people today. For instance, the Yama will say, well, or Elijah will burn them, right? The Altamaha. They'll say, well, the Altamaha are the original Yama, and rightfully so, because that's the group that were called Yama and Yamasee. No other group was called that at that time. The Oconee or the Hichiti speaking Oconee were a group of Yama that landed in the Tamukwa town and started to do business with the Oconee, and they became the major trading partners. This is the same with Coweta, but this is a lot later. So when you deal with the Yama, you have the Tama, who came in and settled into a Tamukwa town. You have the Hichiti or the Itza, the Ishati, Chikasa, the Atikata, Arigata, Tikahasa, those who went to see the sun. They landed in those specific towns. It wasn't many of them, but when the Lenape started to come down, those Yama that were sent or went to the north were able to tame them. But the original people that lost in the Missouri and the Mississippi rivers in the north fled down to the south and to what became Alabama, Mississippi. And when they went down there, they ran into the Mobilians. The Mobilians are who? The Yama. They're also the Yama. So you have different groups of Yama that didn't become Yamasee, but they became something else. Shata, Shata Yama, Chickasaw, Yama. All of them originally come from the same place, speak the same language, got the same grandma. Now that story is their story. The conflict today is you have people who tell that story, but then say they come from Pocatello, South Carolina, which then throws a monkey wrench in the game because you say, wait, the original people from Pocatello or Beaufort, Allendale, South Carolina are the Ibaha, not the Yama. So the story you're telling is the reason there's conflict between you and the others who tell the same story. But the conflict comes because what you say is that's your land. And they're saying, nah, that ain't yours. That belongs to somebody else. You're supposed to be down here with us. So now something has to be created or something has to be told or the focal point to place you in this era or area that's not yours matrilineally because you told your maternal story. What would be that focus? 1707, 1703, 1705, 1710. When the English said, we're going to give this part of the Tama and this part of the Guale land over here, and they're going to be our coast guards and our stewards, and they're going to be the warriors to make sure that our province is defended. That's the turning point. Because at that point, no longer are the English saying, oh, the Wale or the Wali, the Ibaha, the Gullah, they're not calling the people Geechee. Now they are calling everybody Yama or Yamasee. So there's the confusion, there's the conflict. Listen to the words, confusion, conflict. Are you going to tell me this has nothing to do with foundations of confederacies? Remember, I asked you, what is a federation and what is the meaning to con or con, the prefix con mean? What does the word confederation actually mean? So you have conflicts today, you have wars today because some people are out of bounds, some people are out of place telling stories that aren't theirs. Rose says, my family is Yamasee in Buford. His grandmother was born in Potocaligo. Or I don't know if that's a woman, Latrell. I don't know who that is. Peace, what's going on? So in this comment, yes, you can be Yamasee from South Carolina, but that's the Confederacy name. What branch of the Yamasee Confederacy was grandma? And if grandma was born in Potocaligo, South Carolina, I have grandmothers born in Potocaligo, Georgia. Let me open the screen. I have grandmothers born in Potocaligo, Georgia, at the top of the Savannah, Chauga, Tougaloo. So these two towns, this is perfect. I love this comment because I made this connection on the land. I asked the question. With these two towns being adjacent from each other, not adjacent, but adjacent from each other, or being on opposite sides of the river, but being directly across from each other diagonally, whatever the term is, y'all find it, give it to me. So with these two towns having the same name, with these two towns carrying the same original tribal name, with this town being a big town and dealing with specific clans, at what point did the Yamasee first migrate into Potocaligo, and what made the Yamasee the big name in Potocaligo in 1705, between 1705 and 1715? Before that time, I want you to ask this question. You can ask it to self. Who were the original people that lived in the town considered Potocaligo? And what was their cultural tradition? And what cultural emphasis did they leave behind that show that they had continuity within the Yamasee Confederation? Who are these people of Potocaligo? Who are the true people of Saint Helena or Saint Helena? Who are these people? We're talking before European, we're talking before English settlement. We're talking before mission system, right? Let's talk about it. There definitely needs to be clarity. Definitely needs to be clarity. So with over, I don't know if y'all can see those points. I have to pull up the list somewhere else. But with over 50 documented towns, the fact of the matter is towns like Potocaligo, Alutsi, Uspo, Sakuchi or Sakuhachi, all of these originally belonged to the Ibaha. But when the English set up these towns, they gave these towns the name of the Yamasee. Now, it wasn't until Spain sent a spy to St. Augustine in the modern era in order for him to steal documents. And that spy actually went and stole some documents. And when he stole the document, they found out something very crucial to all of this research that we're talking about. Bear with me one moment. Let me go get what that document was turned into. Bear with me 2 moments. I want to make sure that we're clear on this subject, um, and I have to provide adequate information. Let's see. Okay, so what I have in my hand, I'm walking out. We have the Yamasee War. That's William Ramsey. I mentioned the Yamasee Indians, Florida to South Carolina. And the book that the documents were turned into by the Spanish, this is volume 2. This volume is special because, as the author said, there wasn't enough attention um, given to the those of admixture. So those of admixture, I want to point this out, where he mentions the African Wale, the Wale Yamasee, and he said that they're still alive today. But in this, they are telling you that this was a how do they term it, um a immigration of people, or immigration of people into lands because they were being attacked. And it says this new group of Indians were called the Yamasee. Now, this new group of Indians, as was explained, um, they came after the raids of the Westo. And there are letters in this book, or in this text specifically, that were found by the Spanish, which were translated into English. And it was here that they first really knew how to separate, or knew how to tell the difference between those traditional Ibaha and those who would become known as the Yamasee, along with those people of Tama. Now, what's also explained here and often overlooked is that, did you know, when the Wale defeated the Westo, they ran into the same towns that they ran into Tama, they ran into Kowita, Ochesi, they ran into all of these towns that they just so happened to have been invading earlier. I'll ask this way: do you not see the setup? Do you not see the setup? You have groups of people being invaded by Englishmen coming into your land. Now, the people that invaded them try to invade you, but they have friends amongst them in their towns, so they can still go back to towns that they were so-called raiding and chill, vibe, and reboot, and then come back and try to attack again. There's something fishy, something freaky going on. Because why would the Tama accept the Westo and then join the Yamasee Confederacy while beginning to enslave other Wale, Tama, Tamukwa, Appalachie, Cherokee? They just went to enslaving motherfuckers. So what is the possibility that many of the Westo who were so-called raiding the villages were from those villages? Or what is the possibility that many of those Westo who raided those villages became a part of the lower Yamasee, known as the Altamaha or Altamaha, Latama, Tama, Yama, right? This is a place that was documented in the 1500s. They were already there. In the 1600s, they're being attacked, but allowing their attackers to, they allowed them to stay in. It's not like the people retreated and took over the town. That's not what they did. They were allowed to lay their head there, then come back and attack the Wali. So when you studying the Yamasee and Wale story, there's so much. You can't just say, well, yeah, I learned it tribally. Everybody don't know everything. You'll be a damn fool to believe that. There are a lot of things missing, like which are usually made up here in the Yamasee War.
For instance, they have a chapter in here called Monsters and Men. It's one of the last chapters. Monsters and Men. Here we go. And Monsters and Men, they're talking about what happened after the Wali became slaves, and after the Yama and the Kutaba and the Kusabo and all these different groups became or put on the plantation. So 166, it says in 1715, the Common House of Assembly drafted an act that sought to legislate out of existence the racial category of mestizo, traditionally used by Low Country planters to designate slaves of mixed African and Indian ancestry. Quote, all doubts and scuffles, it says, to avoid all doubts and scuffles that may arise about the definition and valuation of these slaves, the act ordered that, quote, all and every such slave who is not entirely Indian shall be accounted and deemed as Negro. The importance of this first official effort to eradicate the connecting link or middle ground between Indian and African slaves. When people ain't know who the fuck was who. Because again, skin color, skin tone. But nobody's talking about what kicked this shit off. What really kicked it off is the Tama putting niggas on plantations. And then when the Europeans say, damn, these motherfuckers done enslaved millions. Let's see if they'll go and enslave the Wale in the north. The Wale start kicking that ass. Let's see if they can go to Florida and start enslaving people. And they raided all the way down to the Keys. Nobody want to talk about that. And the reason nobody want to talk about it is because that's their actual bloodline. So one has to speak from a position of the Wali while their story has already been documented. See, it wasn't until 2012 until the truth had been revealed. Now, some can say, well, we assisted in that truth being told, and rightfully so. But on page 56, it says Yamasee origins and first occupation of Florida. See, the Yamasee are a Native American group not often identified with Florida. In part, I suspect, hint, hint, quote, they suspect, but we know. This is because their occupations there were brief, sporadic, localized, and restricted to the late 17th and 18th centuries. Moreover, or episodic, excuse me. Moreover, their identity has been often blanketed beneath a mission Indian cover or falsely equated or combined with that of the Wale Indians. But this veil is being lifted by recent scholarship. Listen, listen. 150 years before the term Yamasees appeared in Spanish letters, dated to 1663, these groups apparently were living in villages and farmsteads located with the Mississippian chiefdoms of Altamaha, Ocute or Ocate, and Okmulgee. Then you have Ichisi. So these are towns that you can find in the 1600s and even in the 1500s that was settled by the cousins that came from the West and that brought maize. So this is letting you know, hey, they were here at this time in these particular areas. But remember, before they got here, they had to have been, oh yeah, look, I got a holographic Pikachu. Don't tell nobody. So now it says we could talk about Deerskins and Duffels. The book Deerskins and Duffels speaks on the Yama language being the language of the Mississippians, that which they call Mobilian. And then they speak on the different towns that they settled within their migration. And many of these towns, those under them were given to their cousins, which their cousins, the Kawita, Kushida, all the Coos, right? All the Coos, the maize people, all of them. So it's so much that goes into the story of these people. And it's only fair to learn the story of the Wali or the Ibaha and the Yama or the Atakata in their own right before you try to bring them together for the Yamasee War. Because if you don't learn them in your own right, you're going to continue to mash them into something that they're not. This is the same thing with the Geechees. Many people say, well, I'm Geechee. That makes me Yama. No, it does not. You don't know. If your family was a part of the Confederacy, then you are. I have certain parts of my family that were, but that doesn't mean that everybody was a part of the Confederacy. And it doesn't mean that every group came out of that and then came back into that. Some say, well, they were rebuilding or putting together something ancient. What they were putting together had a name that wasn't named by Europeans. And eventually that name became English and they start calling it the Gullah Geechee. So someone, like I said yesterday, has to answer this question. How did these people know the language or still keep the language in order to resurrect something that's really ancient? Because when we talk about the unification of the Yamasee Confederation, we have to talk about the confederation of the Yamasee. Two different time periods, two different peoples, similar name. One means ancient people, one means gentle people. Two different time periods, two different names, two different people. So what was being recreated eventually took on an English overtone. So now Englishmen were able to dictate what was really going on that reservation. If I have to go get the document and read it again, I will. I really don't want to, but I will. And then it'll tell you why the reservation was set up. And it will tell you who was used for the reservation to be set up, because you have to remember there was a war that was used to clear the land for the Yamasee reservation. Who fought that war? Does anybody know who fought that war? Let's see if I can find it in here. I know the groups. The groups were, it was the Westo, the Muskogee, some Yuchi, some Creeks. But the letter is actually here in the struggle for the Georgia coast. I'm gonna look forward to finding this letter, and I'll come back with it when I hop back on next week. But what was explained is, in order for the Englishmen to be able to settle on the coast, they had to get rid of the people who were continuously fighting on the coast. And it wasn't an outside people, it was the Ibaha. Like Uncle Pa said one time, Uncle Pa say, anybody want to know what was really going on? It was the Wale that jumped on them people's ass, because these people were gentle, said in their name. You can hear it. And then when you look at it, you can look at what towns were fighting and what towns were not fighting. What towns were fighting and what towns were enslaving different groups of people. So this 40, where is 40? Let me see if I can find 40, because here in 40, they talk about Altamaha raiding towns. And he ended up raiding a town, and this letter here, the Declaration of Juan. Juan was a Scottish man, and he was detailing what he saw as that group of Yama were enslaving the Wale and the Timucua. And this group that they're enslaving are Wale Timucua. But he said that was 2 years ago that he left from Scotland in the ship with 100 men and some women and children, and 2 gentlemen came as their leaders. They passed on to settle the island of Santa Elena, which they call in their language Rnb or Rnb. He said that leaders of the Scottish who are on the said island of St. Helena, as he has said, gave up 30 shotguns and cutlasses, knives, to the said Yamasee, that they may take them as prices for the said Indian slaves, and that they came to him and carried over 21 Indians from the province of Timucua. And here at the bottom, it says, and an Englishman came from San Jorge to buy some of the said Christian Indians and took them to the said town of San Jorge, but he does not know how many went. And they sold the rest of them to an Irish ship that came 6 months after, having established the town. Now, what else he explains is, as they were putting indigenous people on these ships, Europeans were getting off these boats with all their furniture and shit, settling Guale towns and inviting outside indigenous people into those towns to guard those towns. These letters we can go all day. These letters 1665. These letters were not known until to what 1980. So no one really knew what was really going on until after they already put their work down. So it's a lot of people had to go back and change their shit. Um, let's see what we have here. What do we have here? Okay, assassination. Okay, they talked about the Wale kicking them people ass. Okay, this is about the Wale whooping the Westo ass. More questions. If y'all got any questions, we can answer those, or I'll answer those while I'm on here for these next few minutes.
That's a good bill,
Let's
nephew.
see. Satuchi. Say that again. I can hear you.
I said that was a good bill.
Much love. Thank you. Matter of fact, I found it. I'm going to read this. This is an original Spanish letter. So it's not an original, it's a copy that was translated into English. Then I'm going to go get the actual United States document to stamp it. And this is, it says, to order Captain Lorenzo Joseph de Leon about Santa Catalina in the year of 1680. So what happened in 1680? Now it says, Pablo Salazar, the governor and captain general of this city, presidential, and provinces of St. Augustine, Florida, for his majesty, for the crown. Inasmuch as the enemy, Chichimicos, Uchis, and Chiluquis, with the ignition of Englishmen, invaded the island of Santa Catalina and the province of Guale, and that of Guadaquini, and the Chichimico did some killing. And in order to have an effect on such outrage, which have happened on other occasions, it is very suitable to arrange to search out these enemies in the places which they inhabit, casting them out, or that they reduce themselves to amity and tranquility, that we ought to desire for the propagation of sacred gospel and the tranquility of human life as a result of what has appeared is to bring together the natives of these provinces. Another fucking setup. All of this is a game. The Westo, the Uchi, the Chiluqui raided Guale. And Spain said, hey, we could search them out and kill them. Or if they become Christian, we could just forgive them for what they did. If you just become Christian, we'll forgive you for what you did. Now, in the English documents, Chichimico is Westo, Yuchsis is Yuchi or Creeks, and Chilukis is Cherokees. Because now you see, there's a difference between the Spanish terminology and the English. The Spanish know these people. Remember, when the Spanish used the term Yuchi, they were speaking about anybody that spoke what? The fucking Muskogean language. When the Spanish used the term Yuchi, they were speaking about anybody that spoke the Muskogean language. When they were speaking about those people called Chaluquis, the English called them Cherokees, right? The English called the Chaluqui Cherokee. But are the Chaluqui really Cherokee, or are they something else? Are the Chaluqui Cherokee, or are they something else? See, when you say I'm Cherokee, so that means I'm Yamasee. Niggas that's Wale look at you kind of funny because we like shit. The original people we know that was called that are these people right here. Let's get it. Let's get it now. Where we going? It said the primary informant, he's talking about a war, and this is 1672. So this is 8 years. Hold on, let me see if I can find the document again. So this is 8 years before the 1680 invasion. Now, for anybody that said the Wale were extinct in 1650 on paper, you're a goddamn lie. We're in 1680. We're going to go to 1672. Let's talk about it. So Daikon, the primary informant was a Christian Indian named Daikon, who was said to have been a native of St. Helena and who spoke the Wale language. In February 1672, he and 4 companions had gone to Charlestown, where they saw several ships carrying new settlers and about 30 houses and limited fortifications. Both on his way to Charlestown and on his return voyage to St. Helena, Daikon indicated that he had spoke with the Kakika or Kasika of Ospo, who indicated that her brother accompanied the group to the English settlement. Pause. Where is she from? Ospo. Her brother left and went to the English settlement because the English took over the original Wale towns. This is how Ospo becomes a part of the Yamasee Confederation. 1672 is documented. Nobody knew that until now. So the nation or her town actually split. Some say we ain't fucking with the Spanish. They can't protect us. We gonna go rock with the English. Some say shit, fuck that. We gonna stay down here. Others say fuck both of y'all. Let's continue. Now, in the English settlement, who had provided intelligence regarding the English to the Spaniards in 1671. The Kakika did not wish to go to St. Augustine again, since the other time she had arrived down to Santa Catalina to see the Spaniards, they had sent her to St. Augustine, and thus she did not wish to come because she was very afraid. After returning to St. Helena, Daikon proceeded southward to St. Helena without his first companions, because upon arriving at his land, he found that the Kasika of St. Helena, of St. Helena and other principals had died, and thus the rest of the Indians moved from St. Helena. Now, what happened when that Kakik had died, when that chief died? The Spaniards sent someone to put in charge of somebody else who wasn't even fucking Wale. So someone that was from the Yama towns, somebody that was from the Muskogee towns, they start being put in charge of the Wale towns. The same thing that happened during the Wale uprising. Pause. Now, the testimony above indicates that the town of Ospo, previously located within the Wale province, was evidently located at that time between Santa Helena and Charlestown, and its leaders seem to have been acting as agents for the English during the early 1670s. Daikon testified that the Kakika had deceived the governor in 1671, lying about the existence of 3 castles in Charlestown. When he went, he seen no more than 4 poles that they had placed there. The Kasika of Ospo was apparently exaggerating the strength of the English colony, as Daikon's testimony revealed that the settlers were dying. But why were they dying? Said they were dying and they were unable to provide him even with food for the journey. Since the neighboring Indians of Kopatachekwi were killing cows and pigs and whatever they had. So the people of the town, Ibaha, was already slaughtering everything the English had. The Guale and the English did not get along. It was those being subjugated by the Spanish that moved to the north to become friends with these English, and they taught them how to survive. Now, the brother of Ospo's Kasika or Kakika was even reported to have gone to the English, offering that I would dare to take you to St. Helena, for there are few Spaniards, and we will seize them. This is the separation between the Guale. Now, the indication above confirms that Carolina-Florida frontier, and specifically the lower coast of present-day South Carolina, was home to a quite diversity of Indian groups during the first years following the arrival of the Chichimiko early in the 1660s, and that the inhabitants of such towns regularly visited both Spanish and English settlements. They didn't fuck with them people. The existence of a town named Ospo, presumably related to the late 16th century Guale town of the same name, in this region suggests that at least some of the settlements comprising the emergent Yamasee Confederacy had originated on the Georgia coast to the south. Ospo was one of the Yamasee towns allied to the English during the 17th and 18th century. The fact that the chiefly lineage of Ospo persisted throughout this period and beyond within Guale Mission provinces implies that a division may have occurred at some point among the inhabitants of the former town of Ospo, as I said before we got into this reading. Now, some seem to have relocated north to St. Helena, while others eventually became attached to the mission San Felipe in the Guale province. The identity of the Indians referred to as the Chilukwi during the 1670s is even less clear. Minimally, the Indian town of St. Helena was within the grouping known at the time the Chilukwi Nation. The testimony above is supplemented by later evidence that confirms the identity of the inhabitants of St. Helena as Chilukwi. The latter Indian was interviewed in the Guale language, confirming that the inhabitants of St. Helena spoke a language at least similar to that of the Guale. Subsequent trading visits to Guale by Indians from St. Helena in 1677 and 1678 confirmed that the Chilukwi understood the Guale language. Nevertheless, with the backing of their recent English neighbors, the Chilukwi were one of 3 groups that assaulted and destroyed the mission Santa Catalina in 1680. Even though they were described at that time as having been former allies of the Spanish. Although the Chilukwi strongly resembles that of the Cherokee of the Appalachian Highlands, Later evidence suggests that these were two separate groups. Hint, hint. Remember, I told you about the two groups: the coastal Cherokee and the mountain Cherokees. Right? We talked about that. Now, says in his 1681 census, the Wale and Macoma, so they listed the Oluquis or the Chaluquis among the English allied enemies of the Wale. Now, we go to the document and we read that the enemy Chichimicos, Yutsi, and Chaluqui invaded the island of Santa Catalina in the province of Wale. They did some killings. They didn't tell you that, hey, it resembles Cherokee, but these are two different groups. But when you read English documents, they don't say Chichimico, they say Westo. They don't say Yuchi or Yuchi, it says Creeks. It doesn't say Chaluqui, it says Cherokees. So the Westo, different groups of Yama or Utsis, Creeks, and the Chaluqui, who are from Santa Helena, who speak the language of the Wale, invaded Wale for their English friends. They did that for their English friends. And here in the notes, this is why you have to read the notes. And when you're reading something, you have to go and read the notes too. Because note 47, it says, the three groups of Indians noted here included not only the Chichimico or Westo, who were known to have served as slave raiders, acting with direct English backing and supplying during the 1600s, but also the Yuchi, a name eventually associated with the Lower Creek Confederacy, and the Chaluqui, apparently situated at Santa Helena at this time and probably not identical with Cherokee. When we talk about our story as Ibaha, our story don't start in the 1700s. When we talk about our unification with the original Yama people, our story doesn't start in the 1400s. When we tell our story, or when we tell the stories of the people that were originally on this coast to the Great Pond, all the way up to present day Cahokia, we have to understand that there are always points of unification. Unit, we become one, but that doesn't make you me and me you by way of story. Now, the Yama era and Mays and Wally daily life, okay, that's one chapter. Let's see if I go to chapter 2. Let me go to chapter 2 or chapter 3 real quick. Let's see. So chapter 2, Swift Creek culture and its role in Southeastern development. This is me book. This is the book I wrote, The Green Fire. The Green Fire is still on Amazon. The paperback is 25. The hard copy is 30. It's volume 2. So there are definitely many corrections there. But let's talk about the Swift Creek. Let's talk about Swift Creek culture and its role in Southeastern development. So we'll go to the origins. I'll skip through this. The origins of Swift Creek culture. The decline of the Wally era coincided with the migrations of various peoples into the southeastern United States, including ancestors of the Tanasi, Peruvians, Yama, and Arawak. These migrations brought new ideas, technologies, and cultural influences, reshaping the region. While Wally was celebrated for its fine crafted pottery and egalitarian social structure, Swift Creek initiated a leap forward in artistic expression, social hierarchy, and ceremonial practices. Swift Creek pottery, a hallmark of the culture, introduced stamp and incense designs that departed from simpler Wali styles. Spirals, concentric circles, and geometric motifs reflected both continuity with the past and innovations inspired by cultural exchange. Artifacts have been discovered as far north as Cahokia, illustrating the extensive trade networks that connected Swift Creek communities with distant regions. So during the Swift Creek culture, you already have a point of unification with people in the Americas. So we understand unification. We understand confederacy. We have to understand unification by way of families in order to be union. But we also understand confederacy too. For us, it's best to focus on family and have families focus on themselves and be that unit instead of dealing with this tribal people and this tribal people and this tribal people and coming together as a confederacy and having one of theirs make overall decisions for what we're going to do. It doesn't work like that. The panther and the deer doesn't they don't have the same decision making process. A bird and a fish don't think the same. So it's best for us to allow that responsibility or to leave that responsibility with the family and sit together with each of your families and each family as their own, right? Um, and continue the ancestors' work. No, you can't screenshot this because if you screenshot this, it's going to say copy not authorized. But it's time. It's about family. This is not about individual. Individuals can't. This is not about individuality. This is not about individuality. It's about family. It's about union. So though we respect our allies in the confederacies or the different confederacies, it will always be for us to stay united by way of family. That's how I would end this bill. Thank you all for being here with me today. And I definitely enjoy all of your time. If you want to open your mic, Reem, if you want to open your mic, touch on some, ask some questions, or hop on the free bill, I'm free right now, so we definitely can do that. And if anyone wants to join the panel, if you would like to come on and ask your questions directly, this comment here, you can just click that link and it'll shoot you directly into the panel and I'll bring you up. Let's see. Peace on me. I didn't see you in there. What's going on? Uncle Aunt Reese, what's good, family? Let's see. Let's see. Do we have any questions? Is there anyone that has any questions about this topic? Or anything, if it deals with your family, like, if you want to know how to bring certain things together, certain documents that you may need when you deal with unions and or confederacies, I'm here. I got 10 more minutes on the head. So go ahead and ask those. And while those are being asked, I'll extend it since I did 2 hours yesterday. Just let me take a 5 minute break. I'm gonna take a 5 minute recess or reset. I'm gonna go ahead and let Cuz take over. Um, Little Well, I love her music. So as I play this, whatever comes in your head, definitely dwell on it because she definitely is amazing at clearing negative energy. So 5 minute break. We'll be right back.
Following the sound of wings under these cedar canopies, exhaling the trees, they ring their echo to a silver stream. I turn my eyes into windows to wildflowers, white and black holes. Turn my eyes into windows to wildflowers, white and black holes. Letting it fall together, I'm letting go for once, forever. Following this map under father sky is open heart. Golden hair is spun into the lightning whisper to the stars. I turn my eyes into windows to wildflowers, white and black holes. The light meeting in my middle, between two worlds, the pattern move. A pattern grows into a map. How many times I take this path, woven with the vine, walking the red road alive. Jackie, I be the Maya. Jackie, I be the Maya. Jackie, I be the Maya. Ash of white and open sky, awareness seeing eye to eye, a quilt holding the silence of 1,000 rays streaming through time. I reach out my hand to feel the four winds that turn the wheel, the light meeting in my middle, between two worlds, the pattern move. A pattern grows into a map. How many times I take this path, how many times I peel it back, still the story stays intact. Free my heart of hearts, mystery of love, don't gush enough. Jackie, I be the Maya. Jackie, I be the Maya. Jackie, I be the Maya. Feel my head, feel my head, feel my head. Feel my head, feel my head, feel my
All right. what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Let's see. Let me get this off the screen. Perfect. So, um, with that, Bill, can y'all hear me? Oh, I got to do a mic check if y'all can hear me.
Hear
Let
you
me.
loud and clear, nephew.
You on there, cuz?
Okay.
What's up with
All
y'all, though?
right. Now, what the player, cuz?
And nothing right, y'all cool. I'm about to take my ass back into work.
Oh yeah, what you on? The 10 or 12, boy?
No, I ain't on that one this week. You know, I got two jobs. I sell shoes on the weekend.
Oh, tight shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Say less. I did not know that.
Yeah, I do. I sell shoes. I be trying to stay busy, man, cause I get stagnant, boy. I start to do destructive shit.
Tight shit. The same. So the same. Let's get into it. Let's see. You got something here. Say so eager to find McClan. They say, how can I get in contact with you? If you have Facebook, you could contact me at Wale Origins, GualeOrigins. Same with Instagram. You hit me in my inbox or comment, and I know who you are, and I'll contact you, and we can do our best to assist you with that. Red Crane is a goat when it comes to genealogy. He actually found probably 2 to 3 sets. I know two for sure, sets of cousins that we've been dealing with um, in the past year and a half, 2 years. Next, what we have, other notes that I have, I'll go over this. Since we are talking about, um, since we are on that topic, we can go over the Yamasee War. And this is more notes. So again, I got that printer, so it's everything is in front of me now, so we can just move. Now let's talk about the Yamasee War. I'm gonna go over the notes that I have. The beginning. So what started this? This war they say had taken place between 1715 and 1717, but in reality, it was a continuation of previous wars that were fought by the Wali that triggered a lot of this, and a lot of fights or a lot of subjugation being put on the Yama people, forced them to immigrate outside of the lands that they were given. So you have the slave trade and British deception. So the British enslaved thousands, millions of Southeastern Indigenous people, but they were forcing the Yamasee and Wale and other tribes to handle this business for them. This actually created an instability in the system, not only the clan system, um, but also the ball game, right? And I mean the little and big brother, land encroachment and broken treaties. So as the British attempted to expand their land, they always encroached on somebody else's land, broke the treaty, said, fuck it, whatever business we had, we got to do it again, right? The Wale, who already had suffered losses from the Spanish conflicts, they saw the remaining or the remains of their land being handed to other groups of people. When tribes could not repay their debt, the British demanded land succession or enslaved captives as payment. So this is what's starting to stir up the pot. Um, Now, the anti-British Confederation. So realizing that the British intended to dominate them, the Wale, Yamasee, Creek, Apalachicola, and others formed a military alliance to resist. The initial victories. So in April 17, they it was the
Breaking up, cuz.
war. Okay, pardon me. Um, Let me see. Hold up. Let me try to. I don't know. They're not letting me
You
connect to
good
the
now.
Wi-Fi
I
neither. They
mean,
doing me
I
dirt.
guess it just wasn't for that quick little second,
Are we
but you good
good?
to go now.
Okay. Say less. So with the Yamasee and the Wale killing all these different British people, What Britain did was they formed their own alliance, but the alliance they formed were with the same people that were raiding these people. So they formed alliances with the Westo, they formed alliances with the Cherokee, and they did all of this to basically they did all of this to basically make sure that they would be victorious in their wars. So while they were doing business with the Yamasee, they were doing business with the Cherokee, these different groups, in order to attack these people. Now there were certain chiefs or certain people like Caesar Augustus from Tuvalu. You had Caesar Augustus. You had the Lone Warrior. Um, the Lone Warrior, and you had Charity Hagee. These are three men whose nations were considered Cherokee by the English, but they were not Cherokee at all. However, these are men who had ancestors that were fighting in this war. So the British counterattack and the collapse of the Confederation. When the Cherokee betrayed the Confederation, they started to attack the Yamasee and Creek villages to gain favor from the British. Now, there were also lower creeks like Coweta, who in turn were also doing business with the English. They were playing both sides. So what Coweta had, they had something that scholars call today triple diplomacy, where they stuck to their guns, but they still had treaties and were doing business with the English and Spanish, and they were fighting on behalf of both of those people. Now, see, the fall of the Wale and the Yamasee, this is around what they said 1716, where they pushed them southward into Florida, basically clearing the lands. So as people left their lands and the lands were considered vacant, then all of those people were considered dead. When these people were considered dead on paper, this made way for forced migration and enslavement. So they started to enslave these people. And while they were enslaving them, being that they now had no nation, um, they were reclassified. So thousands of indigenous people were captured and sold into slavery, sent to Caribbean plantations. Now, survivors who remained in British territory were also often reclassified under racial laws. So let's go back and I'll read this again. And then what this will do is pinpoint what we're talking about. This law, these laws of the in the Common House or the Common Assembly, these laws came out in 1715, a year or the year that the war said to have kicked off. So when the war kicked off, anybody who was seen as being mixed breed or not being fully indigenous was considered a Negro. This is how the majority of the people on the plantations became what? Negro, because they were enslaving indigenous people, reclassifying them as Africans and Negroes, stripping away not only their identity, but their birthrights. And many of the Wale and Yamasee and other Southeastern people, here we go, were labeled as Negroes due to their dark skin and admixture with the and or admixture with African populations, which led to their forced assimilation into enslaved or marginalized communities. The emergence of the Gullah, Geechee, and Seminole. Many displaced Wale and Yamasee people escaped into the swamps, barrier islands, and interior forests, where they formed new communities with other indigenous refugees and runaway Africans. Over time, these groups intermixed, developing distinct cultures that still reflected their indigenous roots. Gullah and Geechee communities, which formed along the coastal regions of South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, preserved many indigenous traditions, including language patterns and agricultural techniques, spiritual beliefs, and cultural practices such as beading and basket weaving. Other Wale and Yamasee survivors migrated to Spanish Florida, where they merged with the existing indigenous groups, and African fugitives, giving rise to the Seminole people. 5. Wale's legacy and survival. So, despite the war, Wale people didn't they didn't disappear. They're not extinct, but they found new ways to survive. So some of them migrated into Spanish Florida after the war, and they migrated and joined with other groups who were fleeing the English, such as the Yama, the Appalachi are Ibaha, Temuco, and Muskogee speaking people like the Calusa. The Spanish offered them protection in exchange for military service against the British, which gave rise to indigenous Spanish alliances, which became central to the Seminole resistance against American expansion. Incorporation into Creek and Seminole societies. It's a fact, and it's also known that many Muskogee speaking people, or many men of Coweta, who are cousins, direct cousins of the Yama, tended to take these people in. And when they took them in, there are many Wale who were taken into the Muskogee or the newfound Muskogee Nation too. So some Wale families assimilated into the Creek Confederacy, particularly among the lower Creeks who maintained trade relations with the British and the Spanish. Dagger, remember I mentioned that earlier. So others became key figures with the emerging Seminole identity, preserving elements of Wale governance and warfare tactics. So as Pa taught and as we teach, that warlike mindset came from the people who are already doing it. Now, the influence on Gullah and Geechee culture. The cultural communities of South Carolina and Georgia retained Wale agricultural techniques, specifically in rice cultivation. A lot of people think that Carolina gold is a product that comes from somewhere else. But in reality, there were rice plants before um, the influx of crops from our cousins across the Great Pond in the East. Now, their oral traditions are blended with African influence, which create a unique hybrid identity. After the war, British colonial authorities continued to hunt down and enslave Wale and Yamasee survivors, and many were forcibly again reclassified as Negroes. The Wale name lives on, but we know that the Wale, though it is Appalachian, it means coast. The Spanish created what was known as the Wale when they began to put into place the leaders they needed to do business for them. So this is a short breakdown of the Yamasee War. Did run through it, but that's a short breakdown that I have over here in the notes. Let's see, comments. Can you speak on the migrations of the Eufaula, Makasaki, or Yuchi? Were there any deterrents in a union with these specific groups? It says, and can you elaborate on what some of the conflict and values and principles were or challenges? Okay, so let's talk about migration. And I'll go group by group, right? I'm gonna leave the Eufaula for last. So let's talk about the Makasaki. These groups or that group specifically, they get the name because they were one of the leading groups in the original migration towards the Southeast. The people that made it here first were the Adakata. Adakata means to see the sun. It's an action. Those who are going to see, they're going to see something. There was war going on in their land, and they decided to leave. When they left, they were given a new name, and this name was Yama. Those who are gentle, those who are companions. I gave the definition 3-4 times. Now, the Mikosuki or the Makasaki, When they left, as the Yama left on boats and came up through Florida, the Miccosukee traveled around and followed the path of the Gulf Coast in order to get to where they settled. Now, the base group settled along the Chattahoochee. That second group went up and made it to Cahokia. These are the Yama that were in Cahokia. These are the Yama that saw the Wali coming down and the Lenape coming over. These are the ones who, with the Yuchi, who were originally in the South, migrated to the North in order to create to recreate the green corn ceremony at Cahokia, which is why Cahokia and the Temple of the Sun, they appear very similar. Both are mounds. One is of earth or earthen, and one is made with stone. But it's a what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, it's how they made the stone. They knew how to make stone to where it wouldn't sink within the swamp. This is a conversation that we had yesterday. So the Makasaki, like the Arakata, migrated out of South America and to the Southeast North America or United States today. The Yuchi are said to have come from Easter Island. They landed in South America. They met with the Yama. They then left South America and went to the Caribs. And they left the Caribs and landed in the Southeast. When they got to the Southeast, they were made a part of the salt trade. So this is how their language became the trade language for the salt trade, because they started to move more than the original people would. The original people were more stable. These were men. Men go out and get shit done. So as these men are going out and getting shit done, they encountered a Yama who had a ceremony and had a food. And they encountered the Lenape who had no ceremony, no food. They all became friends. The Yuchi ceremony was matched with the Green Corn Festival, and this is what created the Tosutani Wano Yada'a, or the Yama Confederation. Now, the languages that they were speaking, like Yuchian, again, were used for specific commodities. However, the Yama language, as a trade language, was used to unify the people politically. Those are the two languages that were used in for the majority of the Mississippian era. One you all know as Ishate or Itza is one of many of those dialects, and the other one, which is Yuchian, it's definitely attached to Siouan. They have quote unquote what they call Siouan or Ibaha, as they use a lot of Ibaha prefixes and suffixes. My case in point, the Yuchi would say, well, we're Zoya, children of Zo, or the people of Zo, Ha, right? Ha is the suffix denoting the people. But it's the same when you say Iba, ha. That is the suffix. The same suffix you find in what the trade language known as Timucua. When the Timucua also called the Iba'a, Yuba'a, those who are, right? So it's denotes the people. So that language comes from the Southeast. But that language in the Southeast and that language that came out of South America eventually came together to unify people in ceremony and politically. So that's the migration story between the Yuchi and the Miccosukee or the Makasaki, who are a part of that Atakata branch, right? Now, Eufaula is another way of saying Iba. Eufaula is another way of saying Abala, Abala, Abara, Yuba'a, Iba'a. All of these are the same. The flip is when the Hichiti speaking Listen, Hichiti, when those of good speech, right? When they came in speaking, they extended the word Yufala and Ibala or Ibala Kola to Abalachi Kola, Abalachi Chi, that is Ichiri, Itza, Ishati. That is where that comes from, Chikasa. So the Ufala are the original people to the southeast or to the eastern side or the sun side, excuse me, of the Mississippi. But when the Swift Creek era started to roll in, the Abalachi, right, which they had began to take on maize. So they started to eat more maize than the Ibaha, who were on the coast. The coastal people in the east didn't have it, while those in the south did. Hint, hint. So this is why in Hichiti, one of the words Wali can mean south or that which is downstream, and Ichidi or Iba, excuse me, Ichidi can mean that which is right, but it really means those of good speech. So what's being explained here is with this question, the Eufaula are the original people here, or one group of the original people here. And those two groups which you named came in around similar times. And this was the beginning of the Mississippian era. Let's see. Can you elaborate on what some of the conflicting values and principles were between who? If we're talking about the Yama and the Wali originally, the Yama were a patrilineal people. So their society originally was male dominant, whereas the Wali, excuse me, or the Iba'a, their society was more female oriented, right? So that was the conflict. The family structure, being that the family or the Iba'a did everything through family, and the Yama did everything through politics, the family structure became subordinate to the politics. So now the town is the clan. I'm from this town. We are Win Clan. I can't deal with anybody from this town. I have to go out to this town because this town is Panther Clan. It was no longer my family is Panther, Win, Deer, Bear, all of this shit. It became the town. The town system started to override the system that Mama put in place. So that was the conflict between those two groups of people. Thank you for that. Do we have any other questions or any more questions? It's a lot up here we can go over. Let's see. Let's see. I have, matter of fact, I'll end it with this. I'll end it with this. Paul, you still listening in or you on the clock?
I'm still here, nephew.
Uh, let's do a build on this, the Lenape migration.
For sure. Let's go in.
Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Or I'll do it. I could have saved it to next week, but I'll do it. So
Okay.
the Teligui and the Lenape migration. Who are the Teligui? According to the Walaum, The Teligui are known as the Pine people. Now, the Pine people were said to be a mound building people who resided in the Ohio Valley. The Lenape in their migration, and this is found in the Walaum. This is their book. This is their migration story. The Lenape explained that as they attempted to cross the east, they had to speak to a people who already owned the, who already
In the
inhabitants
land.
of the land.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the interesting part is the Lenape are considered the first. They're considered a First Nation people, along with the Mingwe. But you've never heard of this people, the Teligui, being considered a First Nation people. We're going to talk about their identity. Now, the name has often been linked to the Cherokee Tuskegee or Gidewa, but it also appears amongst the Yuchi as Tahoe Guale. Now, I want you to look at the map that was on the front of the video. You will see Tahoe Goria, and Toho Goria is the same as Taluguali. These are the people that existed from the south to the Ohio Valley, and they were invaded by the Lenape. So as the story goes, the Lenape asks to settle the land of the original people in the east. The people say, nah, you can't settle our land, but what you can do is go further east. But before you do that, you only can allow 1,000 people to cross over. The Lenape say less. We only got about 1,000 people. They tried to sneak over in the darkness of the night, and they had over 10,000 people, and they got their ass kicked. Now, when they got what they did was they went back to the Rocky Mountain region, and they met with the people known as the Mingwe or Mingo, who eventually became the Iroquois,
Right.
or they're the root group of the Iroquois. And the Lenape and the Iroquois decided to go to the south and get another group of people to assist in this invasion. All of these people met up in the Rocky Mountains and decided they would now begin to invade the east. So in the Walaum, it traces their migration though back to about 360 AD. So the story about the Lenape being over here for 30,000 years is insane. 366 AD suggests their crossing of the Bering Straits. And by 1000 AD, they had reached the Mississippi River. By 1327, they moved into the Appalachian Mountains. Why have you never heard of this war? Why have you
Only,
all not heard of this war? Talk to me, Unc. Go ahead.
only those who are traditionalists knows of this story.
So, wouldn't it be best for people to start talking to traditionalists to find out what's really going on? You all haven't heard of this because this deals with family, it deals with family, it deals with family, and though it deals with you, it deals with your family. You have a group of people migrating from Asia. And if we had the Wall of in front of us, we could read it, their whole intent was what? Correct me if I'm wrong. To destroy the East.
To destroy, to obliviate.
To obliviate. Their whole mission of the Algonquin speaking people was to destroy the East because they had lost the war. They lost something in their original homeland of Asia. So they came here attempting to take. When you all are making these connections in your genealogy, see, everybody want to be related to Pocahontas. Take the time and ask if she had ancestors that made it to South America and then came to North America, and what was on their mind when they found out they ran into the same people in South America that they just encountered in North. The Yamasee. This is a fact. All of this comes from that migration. Or we can't even call that a migration because they said, let us invade, let us destroy. They called it an invasion. So it's an invasion. There was an invasion between 1000 AD and 1300 that began to break down the Yama era. There was a war between that time that caused the so-called giants and the little people to be slaughtered by a group of Asians who would later consider themselves the First Nation people. So with that, it's just to touch on it, I need you all to attempt to study that war. If you can study that war, what you'll find is the Gullah and the Geechee are much more ancient than European documents can tell you. You look at these maps, you'll see the Gullah and the Geechee are more ancient than the maps will tell you. And if you talk to the elders, those who do have the admixtures, those who do have both sides, those who may be one or the other, they all somehow, just like every other nigga in the Southeast, got this Indian grandma. Queen Quet grandmother is from the same place my grandmother is from. Saint Helena. We talked about Saint Helena. Anybody ever wonder how your family in the South say they Geechee and Cherokee? Nobody ever thought about that. Fuck your head up. You be like, how you Geechee and Cherokee? Then he crackers will laugh at you. Like, he said, here, Geechee and Cherokee, Geechee Cherokee.
Right.
What happened when you found out they the same word?
Mhm.
what what happened when you just all of a sudden find out? Damn, they the same word.
Mhm.
Just in a different place. Because as Eagle Joe said, you know, our people pick up and move, but shit, they still the same.
Right.
You have to study other people's story. You got to study the neighbors. Like you really want to know about a group of people, study their neighbors and see what their neighbors wrote about them too. See, our ancestors had big ass heads because they kept all that shit in there. That was a flaw in the modern world because if it's in your head and it ain't here, then it don't mean nothing to them in their system. And then when it does mean something in their system, you got to go get you one of these. Your shit got to be stamped by the governmental body. It's fucking crazy. Insane. Let's see. Reem, you there, cuz? I don't know if he
I
went
right
back
there.
to
I
work.
right there.
Hey, are you familiar with anybody last name Perry, Day, or Riley that's like around that Buford area?
No, but I know a couple days and rallies in Charleston.
Okay, so
And then
cuz
then
say he
again, then
heard of or
again,
know of.
I do
Say that
know a
again.
dude. I do know a dude from Buford with the last name Perry.
Okay. So when we do come back on for like the family bill, I add her so y'all could build to see if y'all one of her cousins or some shit.
Right, right. I got you.
Say less. Say less. So that's 2:32. I've been on for 2 hours, 32 minutes. Y'all had enough of my time. I'm about to roll this shit up and blow it down. And I got my white Henny from Costa Rica. You know what that means for me. But
I'm
as
going
far
back.
as the migration, say what, cuz?
I said I about to go back and watch it from the beginning because I must probably about an hour and a half.
Oh yeah, that first hour was fire.
I know I
That
because
first
the
hour was
low
fire.
the back end I catch that was fire. Like okay, I got to go and see what this whole
Tight
thing
shit.
about.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone currently watching, please share this video with just one person. You could click that share button, copy the link, and just send it to one person. That's more than enough for me. That type of stuff excite me.
No, I
Um,
don't know no Perrys
talk
and
to me.
Charleston, just Days and Rileys. I talking to the trail founder.
Okay. I see it. There you go.
Yeah, just I
Nephew,
only know
There you go.
a
Talk
couple
to me, huh?
days and Rileys. I don't know no Perrys.
how they gonna deny who we are when we tell them the ancient shit?
Facts.
But yeah,
Facts.
when you get on your next time, you can add you on. We'll rap. We can see. I can see who I know. I tell you who I know. That's your people though.
Let's show. Let's see. So, Paul, talk to me. You got anything that you want to talk about dealing with the struggle for the Georgia coast, the migrations or anything that we went over? Definitely would like to have some of your wisdom on here before I shut down.
Well, everything is on point, nephew. Everything is, high and up, and nobody can dispute what we say. So, once again, go get your blue fire and go get your green fire. You better copy, and you'll see where my nephew was coming from dealing with that information. And they'll stand up. The workers stand
Facts.
up against anthropology, archaeology, and historical facts. Who go challenge it?
That's what I've been waiting on. Another
Oh, I
challenge.
know, I know, I know, I know, I know. And some of them got the book of dude and everything, but they like, oh shit, this nigga right. Yay.
Yeah,
Yay.
yeah, he right. That fucked them up. Somebody like, man, I got to the end of the book and I'm looking at all these references. I'm like, damn. I'm like, yeah, you got to actually do that work. You got to know those people, talk to them, and especially when you doing something for the people, the work is solid, right? The work is definitely solid. The blue fire is my favorite because it got four different topics. This book, the green fire, is more of a teaching book, right? It's like ontology. It's more of a history book. Um, the blue fire is basically math with words. It's adding things up. It's showing you, okay, well, this is what it is. This is what it is. This is what it is. This is what it ain't. The green fire is more, as I said, history is more science. It's a real thick, hardcover book. And it has beautiful pictures. For those who like pictures, these pictures were taken personally. So these are my pictures from Kolomoki. Even though they shut down the museum. So Auntie, thank you for those. And there's probably 1,000 more pictures that could have been added to this book. Um, but there's nothing more that I can explain today. I got a lot to talk about, but there's nothing I really want to explain. I don't have to be at work at 7:30 tomorrow. We not 6:30. So I gotta be up a little earlier. That means I gotta have that fire water a little early. So much love, everybody. Peace. Please be here next week, same time, 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock Eastern time. Much love to y'all. Reem, Pa, love y'all too. Thank y'all for being here so I
Love
didn't
you
get
too, Pastor.
bored
Number
and
two,
cut
nephew.
this shit. Much love. And it was crazy. Everybody on here, bloodline, man. Feel
You
me?
already know.
Everybody on here got whiskers, man. Cat family, much love. Salute. Much,
Salute,
much
salute.
love.
Get
Yeah,
that
my
green